how to control people using identity labels, which is a very, very powerful tool because we as humans are likely to act as whatever we identify ourselves as. So if you identify as a strong person, an athlete, identify as somebody who hits the gym, guess what? It's not going to be very surprising when you go to the gym, right? It's your identity fulfilling itself. If you identify as somebody, for example, with depression, right? Then it's not going to be a surprise when you wake up sad. So, because humans are going to act as their identity is, one powerful thing you can do in persuasion is instead of shifting somebody's choices, which is easily detectable in a persuasion, when you're trying to persuade somebody, if you come off too direct, they're going to smell that they're being manipulated and they're going to back off. They're not going to do what you want them to do. So by using an identity label, it's a covert hypnotic tactic to where we're able to control the situation without revealing our play here. Now, one thing you can use this for: sales, marketing, dating, seduction, right? An example of how you would use this is, let's say hypothetically you're trying to sell or close a deal. Now, earlier in the call, before you actually ask for the money or ask for the close, you can label the prospect. Here's a way to do it covertly. You say, hey, it seems like you might be. Now, this is something you'll see Jeremy Miner doing a lot of, which is called a softener. So before you make the statement, you're using a softener so their conscious mind cannot say, no, this is incorrect. I'm gonna resist this. I'm gonna resist. I'm not gonna be persuaded. You use a softener. So, hey, you kind of seem like you might be the type of person to X, Y, and Z, right? And that's where your identity label goes. Hey, I could be totally wrong about this. You kind of seem like the type of person that's, really focused, really dedicated, and can actually watch a 10-minute video all the way to the end, right? That would be an identity label I'd be using on you if I wanted to get you to watch this video to the end. Obviously, in one-to-one conversations, this is gonna work a lot better. This can work over text. It can work on high-pressure negotiations. It can work in sales. It can work in any avenue where it's person to person. Now, ideally, one-to-one, so you get actual feedback from the other person. You can tweak and alter what you're doing in real time to make it more effective. Now, an example of how I literally used this the other day is I was texting this girl. We had already seen each other a few times, right? And she was upset at me for whatever reason. And I used an identity label. She was saying, oh, I'm so mature, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, oh, you're playing games, you're immature, right? So what I did is I used her own identity and the label of maturity against her later on in the conversation when I wanted to just move beyond it, like whatever, it's over. I said, hey, yeah, I know you're really mature, and that's how I know you can see my point of view. That's how I know this can happen, right? How she responded to that is she wanted to be really combative, right? But if she did that, she would be falling outside of her identity label, right? People do not want to be outside of their identity label. Very bad. Your brain hates that. You want to be living inside of your identity, and that's your safe zone. That's what's comfortable to you. That's where you're going to stay. As soon as you move outside, bro, not good. Does not feel good. So in sales, you might be on a call and say, hey, now I could totally be wrong about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem like the kind of guy who wants to get things done right the first time. And this is something that contractors use. In my agency, we work with contractors. This is something that I teach them. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, now correct me if I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong about this, but it seems like you're the kind of homeowner who wants to get things done right the correct time and wants to really take care of their home. It seems like you really care about your home. Am I totally wrong about that? And then by ending on a negative, am I totally wrong about that? Their default to stay in their identity label, and they get to correct you, which is even better. They buy the identity label by correcting you, which they want to do. Everybody wants to be right all the time. They'll say, no, 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 no. Like, no. Be like, yeah, I'm totally that kind of person, right? And now they've bought that identity frame, and for the rest of the interaction, they are going to want to interact with you as that identity. Otherwise, what happens if you go for the sale? They go, oh, well, I want the cheapest price possible. I'm just going to go with the cheaper guy. Right now, they're falling outside of that identity. So it's really easy to kind of trap them in. Now, just doing this alone, that's not going to, you're not going to go to somebody and be like, hey, I could tell you're the kind of person who, really cares and would really like this thing, right? And they agree to it and you go, okay, $1 million. That's not going to work. But when you stack identity labels with other persuasion techniques that you'll learn on this channel, then you can get a lot of things stacked in your favor, which has very high mental leverage in pushing somebody or pulling somebody where you want them to go. So if you were to use that, say, hey, I could tell you're really, I could be totally wrong here, correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem like the kind of guy who X, Y, and Z, right? Identity label. You could do that in seduction, in persuasion. I could be totally wrong here, but you seem like the kind of girl who's like very non-judgmental and is a fun kind of girl. I could be totally wrong. Am I wrong about that? No, you're not wrong about that. Now in persuasion, well, in seduction, you don't want to give the girl an identity label. Guys do this all the time. They mess this shit up. You give the girl an identity label that goes against what you're trying to do. So let's say hypothetically you go out with a girl, you're getting drinks, whatever, and you want to take her home. What you would not want to do is give an identity label of, oh yeah, you seem like a really good girl, blah, 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 and have her buy into that. Because then when it comes time to go back to your house or her house, whatever, she's going to be acting against that identity label that she fell into earlier. And for her to uphold the good girl image that you painted her as, for her to uphold that identity, she now has to behave as such. So you really got to be careful with identity labels. You can accidentally fuck a lot of shit up by using the wrong one. But if you use the right one, you can get a lot farther if you know what you're doing. So use this to your advantage. Shoot a comment, write a comment on how you're using it. Love to see what you guys are using it for. And yeah, let me know how it goes.